The red earth of Amuna village had witnessed many things, but none as persistent as Adaeze's morning ritual. Every dawn, before the rooster's crow pierced the humid air, she would slip from her mat and kneel beside the ancient Irako tree behind their compound, pressing her palms against its weathered bark. "Great tree that has stood through 7 generations," she whispered in Igbo, her voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. "You who have watched countless women birth their children under your shade, bless my womb. Let it know the weight of life." 3 years. 3 long years since she married Chinedu, and still her monthly bleeding came as faithful as the rains. Each time she felt a piece of her spirit crumble like dried palm fronds. "Adaeze, where are you hiding again?" Her mother-in-law's voice cut through the morning stillness like a machete through corn stalks. Adaeze pressed her forehead against the tree one last time, gathering strength for another day of sideways glances and whispered conversations that died when she approached. She hurried back to the compound where Mama Chinedu stood with arms akimbo, her wrapper tied high above her waist in the manner of women who meant business. "Every morning you disappear like a thief," the older woman continued, her eyes scanning Adaeze from head to toe. "While other wives are already preparing their husbands' food, you are somewhere talking to trees. No wonder your womb remains empty. How can a child grow in a woman who abandons her duties?" I don't want to hear your excuses." Mama Chinedu's voice dropped to that dangerous whisper that somehow felt louder than shouting. 3 years, Adaeze. 3 years my son has been feeding you, clothing you, and what do you give him in return? Nothing. Not even one miscarriage to show you are trying." The words hit like physical blows. Adaeze lowered her gaze to the swept earth of the compound, counting the scattered guinea fowl feathers near her feet. 1, 3. "Good morning, Mama." Chinedu emerged from their small house, stretching and yawning. At 28, he still carried the lean strength of his youth, though recent months had added lines around his eyes that hadn't been there when they married. "I hope you slept well." "How can I sleep well when your wife wanders around like a ghost instead of taking care of you properly?" Mama Chinedu shifted her attention to her son. "Look at you, thin like a matchstick. Emeka's wife has given him 2 sons already, and she still makes sure he eats like a king. But this one." She gestured dismissively at Adaeze. Chinedu's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Mama, please. Don't please me. I warned you about marrying a woman from that family. Her own mother had difficulties before Adaeze came, and you see how few children they have? Bad blood, I told you. But you said love would conquer everything." She laughed bitterly. Love doesn't fill a compound with children's laughter. Adaeze felt the familiar burning in her throat that preceded tears, but she had learned to swallow them. Tears only made things worse. They were seen as manipulation, weakness, or worse, self-pity that might drive away whatever slim chance remained for conception. "I'll prepare your breakfast," she said quietly, moving toward their small kitchen. "And I'll go check the palm wine taps," Chinedu announced, grabbing his climbing gear. "The morning harvest won't wait." As he walked past Adaeze, their eyes met briefly. Once, that look might have held warmth, reassurance, the silent communication of partners facing the world together. Now it held something else. Not quite resentment, but a weariness that made her stomach clench. In the kitchen, Adaeze lit the kerosene stove and began preparing yam porridge. As she peeled the tubers, she remembered her wedding day 3 years ago. How beautiful everything had seemed then. The elaborate decorations in her father's compound, the rich fabrics, the abundant food, the dancing that lasted until dawn. She had felt like a queen, surrounded by well-wishers and praise singers who called her Adaeze, daughter of royalty. "You will give him sons like palm fruits on a tree," her own mother had whispered in her ear during the traditional wine-carrying ceremony. "Many, many sons." But now, as she stirred the porridge and inhaled its familiar aroma, those words felt like mockery from a different lifetime. "Adaeze." The sharp call came from the main road. She looked up to see her friend Ngozi approaching, balancing a basket of vegetables on her head with the easy grace of practice. Behind her toddled her 2-year-old son, Kelechi, his round belly preceding him like a small drum. "Ngozi, no. Welcome." Adaeze forced a smile, but her eyes lingered on little Kelechi as he ran straight to examine a butterfly near the compound entrance. "I'm going to the market," Ngozi said, lowering her basket. "Mama Emeka asked me to stop and check if you need anything." Mama Emeka was Ngozi's mother-in-law, and the contrast between their situations wasn't lost on either woman. Mama Emeka praised Ngozi constantly, showed her off to other women, and treated her like a cherished daughter. The difference in treatment was a silent presence in every conversation. "I don't need anything, thank you." Ngozi studied her friend's face with the careful attention of someone who had known her since childhood. Ada, are you well? You look. I'm fine. No, you're not. Ngozi glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard, then moved closer. Mama Chinedu was at the women's meeting yesterday. She was talking again. Adaeze's hands stilled on the wooden spoon. What did she say? That maybe it's time for Chinedu to consider other options. She mentioned Obioma, Enzo Koro's daughter. The girl is only 20, and her hips are wide like a proper woman's should be. The spoon slipped from Adaeze's suddenly numb fingers, clattering against the pot. She had known this day would come, had felt it approaching like storm clouds gathering on the horizon, but hearing it spoken aloud felt like being struck by lightning. Ada, breathe, Ngozi urged, placing a supportive hand on her friend's shoulder. 20 years old, Adaeze whispered. With wide hips. Listen to me. Ngozi's voice became fierce, protective. You are not just a womb to be discarded when it doesn't produce fruit on command. You are intelligent, hardworking, faithful. You've supported Chinedu's palm wine business, kept his home spotless, cared for his mother even when she treats you poorly. Any man would be blessed to have you. But even as her friend spoke these truths, Adaeze knew they carried little weight in their world. A woman's worth was ultimately measured by the children she bore, particularly sons. Everything else, kindness, intelligence, industry, were merely pleasant additions to the main requirement. Little Kelechi tottered over, babbling something incomprehensible but cheerful. Without thinking, Adaeze scooped him up, breathing in his clean, innocent scent. For a moment she allowed herself to imagine, to feel the phantom weight of her own child in her arms, to picture Chinedu's face lighting up with pride instead of growing more distant each month. Mama? Kelechi reached for Ngozi, and Adaeze reluctantly handed him over. I should finish breakfast, Adaeze said, turning back to the pot. Ada. Ngozi's voice was gentle but urgent. Maybe you should go see Mama Nkiru, the medicine woman in Amakwi. They say she helped Chinyu from Umwahia, and that woman had been barren for 7 years. I've tried everything, Ngozi. The herbs, the rituals, the prayers. I've visited 3 different healers and 2 pastors. I've drunk more bitter concoctions than I can count. If the gods or God wanted to bless me with children, wouldn't it have happened by now? The question hung in the air between them like smoke from wet wood, acrid and persistent. From inside the house, Mama Chinedu's voice rose again. Adaeze, this food is taking forever. Are you cooking yam or planting it? I have to go, Ngozi said reluctantly. But remember what I said about your worth. Don't let anyone, not even your own thoughts, convince you otherwise. As her friend walked away, Adaeze stood alone in the kitchen, stirring porridge and wondering how much longer she could hold on to hope that was becoming as thin as smoke in the harmattan wind. The morning sun climbed higher, and somewhere in the distance she could hear children playing, their laughter carrying on the breeze like a song she had forgotten the words. The yam porridge burned. Adaeze stared at the blackened bottom of the pot, smoke rising like her hopes disappearing into nothing. She had been thinking about Obioma, the 20-year-old girl with wide hips, and forgot to stir the food. What is that smell? Mama Chinedu's voice boomed from the main house. Adaeze quickly turned off the stove and tried to scrape the good parts into a clean bowl. Her hands shook as she worked. Everything she touched these days seemed to turn wrong. I'm coming, Mama, she called out, her voice cracking. She carried the bowl outside where Chinedu sat on a wooden stool, waiting. His mother stood beside him like a guard watching a prisoner. What took so long? He asked without looking up. The food got a little burned, but the top part is still good. Chinedu lifted the spoon and tasted it. His face twisted in disgust. This tastes like ash. How can you burn simple porridge? I'm sorry. I can make fresh one. With what time? I need to go check my palm wine taps before the sun gets too hot. He pushed the bowl away. I'll buy food in town. Mama Chinedu clicked her tongue. You see what I mean? A woman who cannot even cook properly. What kind of wife is this? Adaeze felt her cheeks burn with shame. She had been cooking since she was 8 years old. Her mother had taught her well. But lately her mind wandered so much that simple tasks became difficult. Let me cook rice instead, she offered. Don't worry about it, Chinedu said, standing up. I said I'll eat in town. As he walked toward the road, Mama Chinedu followed him. Adaeze could hear them talking in low voices, but she caught some words: useless, disappointment, and time to make changes. Her stomach felt like someone was squeezing it with iron hands. She cleaned the burned pot, scrubbing until her arms ached. When she finished, she decided to go to the market. Maybe being around people would help her forget her troubles for a while. The Yamuna market was busy that morning. Women spread their goods on mats under big umbrellas: tomatoes, peppers, dried fish, palm oil in plastic bottles. Children ran between the stalls, chasing each other and laughing. Adaeze walked slowly, greeting the women she knew. But she noticed something different today. Some of them looked at her strangely, then whispered to each other when she passed. "Adaeze," called Mama Kemi, who sold vegetables. "Come and buy fresh tomatoes." Adaeze approached the woman's mat. As she bent to examine the tomatoes, she heard two women behind her talking. "Poor girl," one said. 3 years and still nothing. "I heard Mama Chinedu is already looking for a second wife for her son," the other replied. "Really? Who?" "Obioma, Enzo Koro's daughter. That girl is fresh like morning dew. And you should see her hips, perfect for carrying many children." Adaeze's hand froze over the tomatoes. Her heart started beating very fast. Mama Kemi noticed her face. "Are you feeling well? You look pale." "I'm fine," Adaeze whispered. But the women behind her continued their conversation, not caring who could hear. "When will the introduction happen?" "Soon, I think. Mama Chinedu went to their compound yesterday. She took palm wine and cola nuts." "Smart woman. Why should her son suffer with a barren wife when there are many fertile girls available?" The word barren hit Adaeze like a slap. She stood up quickly, leaving the tomatoes. I need to go," she told Mama Kemi. "But you didn't buy anything." Adaeze didn't answer. She walked fast through the market, trying to escape the whispers that seemed to follow her everywhere. But the damage was done. Now she knew the truth. Chinedu's mother had already started the process. She had taken palm wine and cola nuts to Obioma's family, the traditional way of showing serious interest in marriage. When she reached home, she found Chinedu back from checking his palm trees. He was counting money more than usual. "The palm wine sold well today," he said without looking at her. "That's good," she replied, though her voice sounded strange. He finally looked up. "What's wrong? You look like you saw a ghost." Adaeze sat down on the small stool near the door. Her legs felt weak. "Chinedu, we need to talk." "About what?" She took a deep breath. "I heard something at the market today." His face changed. The relaxed look disappeared, replaced by something harder. "What did you hear?" "They said your mother visited Enzo Koro's compound yesterday. They said she took palm wine and cola nuts." Chinedu was quiet for a long time. He stopped counting the money and stared at his hands. "Is it true?" Adaeze asked. "My mother does many things without telling me." "That's not an answer." He looked at her then, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before, a kind of cold distance. "Adaeze, we've been married for 3 years." "I know. 3 years without a single child. Not even a miscarriage." "I know," she repeated, her voice getting smaller. "My friends laugh at me behind my back. They say I married a woman with a closed womb. They say maybe I'm not even a real man because I can't make my wife pregnant." Each word felt like a knife cutting into her heart. "I've tried everything," she said. "I've seen doctors, traditional healers, pastors. I've prayed until my knees hurt from kneeling. I've drunk every bitter medicine they gave me." "Maybe that's the problem," he said. "Maybe you're trying too hard instead of just accepting that some women are not meant to be mothers." The words hung in the air between them like poison. "So what are you saying?" she asked, though she already knew. "I'm saying that a man needs children. My lineage needs to continue. My father's name needs to live on through his grandchildren. And I can't give you that. You haven't given me that. So you want to marry another woman." "I need to marry another woman." The difference between want and need felt important somehow, though Adaeze couldn't explain why. "What about me?" she asked. "What about you? What happens to me when you bring another wife?" Chinedu sighed like someone tired of explaining something obvious to a slow child. "You'll still be my first wife. You'll still live here. Nothing changes except that there will be someone else who can give me what you cannot." "Everything changes," Adaeze said quietly. "Only if you make it change. Obioma is a good girl. She respects elders. She won't cause trouble." So he had already decided. The girl's name came from his mouth so easily, like he had been practicing saying it. "Have you met her already?" "My mother introduced us last week." Last week. While Adaeze was praying under the Irako tree every morning, her husband was meeting his future second wife. "And you like her?" "She's suitable." "That's not what I asked." Chinedu stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the compound where his mother was washing clothes. "Love is not the most important thing in marriage, Adaeze. Respect, children, family honor, these things matter more. You loved me once. I still do. But love doesn't fill a house with children's laughter. His words echoed his mother's from that morning, and Adaeze realized they had probably discussed this many times before today. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and red. Soon it would be dark and they would eat dinner together and lie on the same mat and pretend everything was normal. But everything had changed in the space of one conversation. Adaeze looked at her husband's back and wondered when he had become a stranger. The sound of laughter filled the compound like music Adaeze no longer understood. She peeked through her kitchen window and saw them, Chinedu and Obioma, sitting under the mango tree, sharing roasted groundnuts from the same bowl. Obioma was everything Adaeze was not. 20 years old with smooth dark skin that glowed like she rubbed palm oil on it every morning. Her breasts sat high and firm under her bright yellow blouse. When she laughed, she threw her head back and showed perfect white teeth. She's beautiful, Adaeze whispered to herself, hating how the words tasted in her mouth. Yes, she is. Adaeze jumped and turned around. Mama Chinedu stood in the doorway with a big smile on her face, the kind of smile she never gave Adaeze anymore. Look at them, the older woman continued, moving to stand beside Adaeze at the window. See how happy my son looks? When last did you see him smile like that? Adaeze's throat felt dry. It had been months since Chinedu smiled at her that way. Maybe even a year. She's young, Adaeze said quietly. Young and fertile. Look at those hips, made for bearing children. And her mother, Mama Obioma, she had 8 children. Good blood runs in that family. Outside, Chinedu was showing Obioma something in his palm. She leaned closer to look and their shoulders touched. She giggled and pushed him playfully. When will the traditional marriage ceremony happen? Adaeze asked, though she didn't want to know the answer. Next month. We're planning everything properly. This time, we want to make sure the gods smile on the union from the beginning. The words "this time" hit Adaeze like a stone. As if her own marriage had been cursed from the start. Adaeze? Chinedu called from outside. Come and meet Obioma properly. Adaeze's stomach twisted, but she had no choice. She walked outside slowly, wiping her hands on her wrapper. Obioma looked up at her with bright, curious eyes. So you are the senior wife, she said with a sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes. I am Chinedu's wife, Adaeze replied carefully. His first wife, Obioma corrected. But I will be the wife who gives him sons. Many sons. The words were said with such confidence, such cruel certainty, that Adaeze felt her face burn with shame. Obioma, Chinedu said softly, but he was smiling like he found her boldness charming. What? Am I lying? Everyone knows why you're marrying me. Your current wife cannot fulfill a woman's most important duty. Obioma's voice was still sweet, but her eyes were hard as stones. That's enough, Adaeze said quietly. Enough. Obioma stood up, and Adaeze realized how tall she was. I haven't started yet. Do you know what people call you in the market? Idarala. The cursed one. They say you have something evil inside you that kills babies before they can grow. Obioma. This time Chinedu's voice was sharp. But the girl continued, taking a step closer to Adaeze. My mother says some women are born to be mothers and some are born to serve those who can be mothers. Which one are you, senior wife? Adaeze felt something hot and dangerous rising in her chest. Her hands started to shake. I said that's enough, she repeated louder this time. Or what? You'll fight me? A barren woman fighting a pregnant woman? Pregnant. Adaeze's voice came out like a whisper. Obioma smiled and placed both hands on her flat stomach. Not yet. But soon. Very, very soon. The world started spinning around Adaeze. She grabbed the mango tree to steady herself. You're lying, she said. Am I? Chinedu, tell her about last week when we went to visit Pastor Emmanuel for prayers. Chinedu looked uncomfortable. Obioma, maybe we should talk about this later. Why later? She needs to understand her place in this house. I am going to be the mother of your children. She is just, what is she exactly? Before anyone could answer, another voice joined the conversation. She is nothing. Everyone turned to see a woman walking into the compound. She was older than Obioma but younger than Mama Chinedu, with the same proud face as Obioma. Mama? Obioma ran to hug the woman. This must be Mama Obioma, Mama Chinedu said, rushing forward to greet their guest properly. But Mama Obioma's eyes were fixed on Adaeze. So this is the famous barren wife I've heard so much about. Adaeze felt like a trapped animal with nowhere to run. She doesn't look sick, Mama Obioma continued, walking around Adaeze like she was examining a goat in the market. Good hips, clear skin, strong looking. The problem must be inside. Something rotten in her womb. Mama, please, Chinedu said, but his voice had no real force behind it. Please what? Your mother invited me here to see what my daughter will be dealing with. I need to know if this woman will be a problem for Obioma. I won't be a problem, Adaeze said quietly. You already are a problem. Your failure reflects on this whole family. When people see a barren first wife, they wonder if there's something wrong with the husband too. You're affecting my daughter's reputation before she even marries in. That's not fair, Adaeze protested. Fair? Mama Obioma laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Was it fair when the gods decided to close your womb? Was it fair when they chose to bless my daughter with fertility while cursing you with emptiness? Obioma giggled. Mama, you're so funny. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious. This woman needs to understand that when my daughter comes into this house as the new wife, things will change. The barren wife will not be the center of attention anymore. I was never the center of attention, Adaeze said, her voice getting stronger. Oh, but you were. All the pity, all the concern, all the special treatment from healers and pastors. Everyone trying to fix the broken woman. Well, that time is over. When Obioma starts having babies, nobody will remember your name. Mama Chinedu nodded along with everything Mama Obioma said. You speak the truth, my friend. Change is coming to this house. Adaeze looked at Chinedu, waiting for him to defend her, to say something, anything. But he just stood there looking at the ground like a schoolboy being scolded. I think I should go inside, Adaeze said. Running away again? Obioma called after her. You can't run from the truth forever. But as Adaeze turned to leave, Mama Obioma grabbed her arm. Her fingers dug in like claws. Listen to me carefully, barren woman. My daughter is going to be the queen of this house. You can either accept that and find your place as her servant, or you can fight it and make life difficult for everyone. What will it be? Adaeze looked down at the hand gripping her arm, then up at Mama Obioma's hard face. Something inside her snapped. Let go of me, she said quietly. What? I said let go of me. This time her voice was louder, stronger. You dare to raise your voice at me? Do you know who I am? I know exactly who you are. You're the mother of a girl who thinks being 20 years old makes her better than everyone else. You're a woman who comes into someone else's compound to cause trouble. You're someone who has no respect for other people's pain. Mama Obioma's eyes widened in shock. Nobody had ever spoken to her like this. How dare you? How dare I what? Speak the truth? Your daughter can have all the children she wants, but that doesn't make her a better person than me. And you can threaten me all you want, but this is still my house too. Not for long, Obioma said with a nasty smile. We'll see about that. The words came out before Adaeze could stop them. Everyone stared at her like she had grown two heads. What did you just say? Mama Obioma asked, her voice dangerous. But Adaeze was done being afraid. I said we'll see about that. What happened next was like something from a bad dream. Mama Obioma's hand flew through the air toward Adaeze's face. But Adaeze was faster. She caught the woman's wrist and held it tight. Don't you ever try to hit me again, Adaeze said, her voice like iron. Let go of my mother. Obioma screamed, rushing forward. But instead of backing down, Adaeze pushed Mama Obioma away so hard that the older woman stumbled backward and fell on her bottom in the dust. The compound erupted in chaos. You pushed my mother. Obioma shrieked, launching herself at Adaeze. Adaeze caught Obioma's hands before they could reach her face. The two women struggled, pulling at each other's clothes and hair. Stop it. Both of you stop. Chinedu shouted, trying to separate them. But Obioma was strong and angry. She twisted out of Adaeze's grip and slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed through the compound like a gunshot. For a moment, everything went quiet. Adaeze touched her cheek where the slap landed. It burned like fire. Then something dark and terrible woke up inside her. She grabbed Obioma's yellow blouse and pulled hard. The fabric tore with a loud ripping sound. My blouse. Obioma screamed. You tore my new blouse. I'll tear more than your blouse if you touch me again, Adaeze said, her voice so cold it made everyone shiver. Meanwhile, Mama Obioma had gotten up from the ground, covered in dust and furious like a wounded buffalo. You will pay for this disgrace, she yelled, pointing at Adaeze. Nobody pushes me down and lives to tell about it. She looked around the compound until her eyes landed on a thick stick near the firewood pile. Mama, no. Obioma cried, seeing what her mother was planning. But Mama Obioma grabbed the stick and rushed toward Adaeze like a woman possessed. Adaeze saw her coming and picked up a clay pot from near the kitchen door. "Come any closer and I'll break this over your head," she warned. "You think I'm afraid of you, barren witch? Try me and find out." The two women faced each other like warriors preparing for battle. Mama Obioma with her stick raised high, Adaeze with the clay pot ready to throw. "Stop this madness," Chinedu shouted, but nobody was listening to him anymore. "I'll show you who rules this compound," Mama Obioma said, taking another step forward. "And I'll show you what happens to people who come into my house to disrespect me," Adaeze replied. That's when Mama Chinedu decided she had seen enough. "Enough!" she screamed so loud that birds flew out of the mango tree. Everyone froze. "This is my compound, and I will not have it turned into a wrestling ground by foolish women." She marched over to where Mama Obioma stood with the stick. "Put that down right now. Are you a mad woman? Fighting like a market trader?" Then she turned to Adaeze. "And you? Drop that pot before I call the village elders to come and see what kind of wife my son married." Slowly both women lowered their weapons. "Now," Mama Chinedu continued, "Mama Obioma, take your daughter and go home. Come back when you can behave like civilized people." But she, Obioma, started to protest. "I don't want to hear it. Both of you leave now." Mama Obioma wrapped her torn wrapper around herself with as much dignity as she could manage. "This is not over," she said to Adaeze. "Nobody treats me like this and gets away with it." "Neither do I," Adaeze replied calmly. As the two women walked toward the road, Obioma turned back one more time. "Enjoy your victory, barren wife. It won't last long." After they left, the compound fell silent except for the sound of everyone breathing hard. Chinedu stared at Adaeze like he was seeing her for the first time. "What has gotten into you?" he asked. "I got tired of being pushed around. You embarrassed me in front of my future in-laws. They embarrassed themselves by coming here to cause trouble." Mama Chinedu shook her head sadly. "Adaeze, you have made a big mistake today. Mama Obioma is not a woman to mess with. She has connections, influence. She can make life very difficult for this family. Life is already difficult for me. It's about to get much worse," Chinedu said quietly. As if to prove his point, they heard voices approaching from the road. A small crowd was gathering, drawn by the noise of the fight. "What happened here?" called Enzo Coro, one of the village elders. Nothing, Mama Chinedu said quickly. "Just women talking too loudly." But Adaeze could see the curious faces, the whispered conversations, the pointing fingers. By tomorrow, everyone in 3 villages would know that the barren wife had fought with her husband's new woman. She looked at her torn dress, her scattered hair, the overturned furniture in the compound. For the first time in 3 years she didn't feel ashamed. She felt powerful. And that scared her more than anything else. 3 weeks after the fight, the whole village was still talking about it. Adaeze could feel their eyes following her everywhere she went. At the market, women would stop talking when she approached, then start whispering again when she passed. Children pointed at her and giggled behind their mothers' wrappers. "There goes the barren wife who fought her husband's new woman," they would say. But something strange had happened since that day. Instead of feeling ashamed, Adaeze walked taller. She looked people in the eye instead of staring at the ground. When women whispered, she smiled at them instead of hurrying away. "What has gotten into you?" Ngozi asked her one afternoon. They were sitting under the big tree near the stream washing clothes together. "I'm tired of being afraid," Adaeze replied, scrubbing Chinedu's shirt harder than necessary. "But people are saying terrible things about you. They're calling you a troublemaker, a bad wife who doesn't know her place." "Let them talk. At least they're not calling me weak anymore." Ngozi stopped washing and stared at her friend. "Ada, I'm worried about you. This is not like you at all. Maybe the old me was the problem." Before Ngozi could reply, they heard footsteps on the path. Chinedu appeared, walking fast like someone with urgent news. "Adaeze, come home now," he said without greeting either woman. "What? What's wrong? Just come. We need to talk." The tone of his voice made Adaeze's stomach twist. She quickly gathered her wet clothes and followed him home. In their compound, she found Mama Chinedu sitting with 2 other women village elders' wives. Their faces were serious like people planning a funeral. "Sit down," Chinedu said. Adaeze remained standing. "What is this about?" "The wedding date has been set," Mama Chinedu announced. "Next Saturday." "Next Saturday?" Adaeze felt like someone had slapped her. "But that's only 1 week away." "Mama Obioma insisted on moving it up," one of the elder women explained. "She says waiting longer will give evil spirits time to interfere with their plans." Adaeze knew the real reason. Mama Obioma wanted to humiliate her as quickly as possible. Fine, Adaeze said quietly. I'll stay in the house that day. Actually, Chinedu said, not looking at her, that's what we need to discuss. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. It looked like an invitation card, decorated with gold letters and small pictures of wedding rings. What is that? Your invitation, Mama Chinedu said with a smile that looked like a snake's grin. Adaeze stared at them like they had grown extra heads. My invitation to what? To the wedding, Chinedu said. Mama Obioma specifically requested that you be invited as a special guest. The world started spinning around Adaeze. She grabbed the nearest chair to keep from falling. You want me to attend your wedding to another woman? It's tradition in some places, one of the elder women said. The first wife welcomes the second wife into the family by attending the ceremony. That's not our tradition, Adaeze said, her voice getting louder. It's becoming our tradition, Mama Chinedu replied firmly. Mama Obioma says it will show the village that there are no hard feelings between the two wives. It will prove that you accept your place in this family. Adaeze looked at the invitation card in Chinedu's hands. She could see her name written in fancy letters. Mrs. Adaeze Okoro is cordially invited to witness the holy union of Mr. Chinedu Okoro and Miss Obioma Nkoro. This is cruel, she whispered. It's practical, Mama Chinedu corrected. People are already saying bad things about this family because of your behavior. If you attend the wedding like a good first wife, it will show everyone that you're not a troublemaker. And if I refuse? Then everyone will know you're a jealous, bitter woman who can't accept her husband's happiness, Chinedu said coldly. Adaeze felt trapped like an animal in a cage. If she went to the wedding, she would be humiliated in front of the whole village. If she didn't go, she would be labeled as the problem. I need time to think about this, she said. There's nothing to think about, Mama Chinedu snapped. The invitations have already been printed. Your name is on them. People are expecting to see you there. You did this without asking me first? We're asking you now, Chinedu said. Will you come or not? Adaeze looked around the room at all the faces staring at her. These people were supposed to be her family, but they were treating her like an enemy. What will I wear? She asked quietly. Something simple, Mama Chinedu said quickly. Nothing too fancy. We don't want you to outshine the bride. Of course not. Can't have the barren wife looking better than the fertile one. The sarcasm in her voice made everyone uncomfortable. Ada, Chinedu warned. What? I'm just agreeing with your mother. I'll wear something simple and ugly so nobody will look at me instead of your beautiful new wife. She took the invitation from his hands. The paper felt heavy like it was made of stone instead of cardboard. I'll come to your wedding, Chinedu. I'll sit in the front row and smile while you promise to love another woman forever. I'll clap when you kiss her. I'll dance when the music plays. I'll be the perfect first wife. Something in her tone made Chinedu step back. Ada, you're scaring me. Good. Maybe it's time someone in this family felt scared for a change. The morning of the wedding, Adaeze woke up before dawn. She had barely slept all week, but she felt strangely calm. She bathed carefully, using the expensive soap she had been saving for special occasions. She oiled her skin until it glowed. She braided her hair in the traditional style of married women. Then she opened her wooden box and pulled out her wedding outfit, the same gold and red wrapper she had worn when she married Chinedu 3 years ago. Perfect, she whispered to herself. When Chinedu saw her, his face went pale. You can't wear that, he said. Why not? It's my best outfit. It's your wedding outfit. People will think you're trying to compete with Obioma. Let them think whatever they want. Mama Chinedu appeared in the doorway and gasped. Take that off right now. Are you completely mad? I look beautiful, don't I? Adaeze spun around slowly. My husband married me in this outfit. Surely it's appropriate for his second wedding too. You're doing this on purpose, Chinedu accused. Doing what? Looking like a proper wife? I thought that's what you wanted. Before anyone could argue further, they heard car horns honking outside. The wedding party had arrived to pick up the groom. We'll discuss this later, Chinedu muttered, grabbing his suit jacket. There won't be a later, Adaeze said quietly, but nobody heard her. The wedding was being held at the biggest church in the next town. By the time Adaeze arrived, the parking area was full of cars and the church was packed with people. She walked up the steps slowly, enjoying the shocked looks on people's faces when they saw her outfit. Is that the first wife? She heard someone whisper. Why is she dressed like a bride? This is going to be interesting. Inside the church, Adaeze found her reserved seat in the front row. Right next to Mama Obioma, who looked like she wanted to kill her. You have some nerve, Mama Obioma hissed. Thank you for the invitation, Adaeze replied sweetly. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. The church was decorated with white flowers and gold ribbons. Everything looked expensive and perfect. Much more elaborate than Adaeze's own simple wedding had been. When the music started, everyone stood up. Obioma appeared at the back of the church like a queen. Her wedding dress was huge and white, covered in shiny beads that caught the light. She looked like something from a fairy tale. Adaeze clapped along with everyone else, her smile never faltering. Chinedu stood at the altar in a black suit, looking handsome and nervous. When he saw Obioma walking toward him, his face lit up with joy. The same joy he had shown when Adaeze walked down the aisle 3 years ago. Dearly beloved, the pastor began, we are gathered here today to witness the holy union between Chinedu and Obioma. Adaeze listened to the familiar words, remembering her own wedding day. How hopeful she had felt. How certain she was that love would be enough. Do you, Chinedu, take Obioma to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Do you, Obioma, take Chinedu to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. The words felt like knives cutting into Adaeze's heart, but she kept smiling. You may now kiss the bride. Chinedu lifted Obioma's veil and kissed her while the congregation cheered. Adaeze clapped harder than anyone else. When they turned to walk back down the aisle as husband and wife, Obioma's eyes found Adaeze in the crowd. The younger woman's smile faltered when she saw how calm and beautiful the first wife looked. This wasn't the broken, humiliated woman she had expected to see. As the wedding party moved toward the reception hall, Adaeze followed behind with the other guests. She could feel people staring at her, whispering about her outfit, wondering what she was planning. But Adaeze just smiled and walked with her head held high. The real show was about to begin. The reception was in full swing when Adaeze decided it was time. Tables covered with white cloths filled the big hall. People ate rice and chicken, drinking palm wine and soft drinks. The DJ played loud music while children ran around between the dancing adults. Chinedu and Obioma sat at the high table like a king and queen, receiving gifts and congratulations. Obioma had changed into a beautiful red outfit that showed off her curves. She kept touching her flat stomach and smiling, reminding everyone about the baby she would soon have. Adaeze sat at a table in the back, still smiling her mysterious smile. People kept glancing at her, waiting for her to break down and cry or cause a scene. But she just ate her food calmly and watched everything like she was enjoying a movie. She's acting too calm, Mama Obioma whispered to her friends. I don't trust it. Maybe she's finally accepted her place, one woman replied. Or maybe she's planning something evil. You know how desperate barren women can be. But Adaeze heard everything. She had always been good at listening to conversations people thought she couldn't hear. When the dancing started, Chinedu pulled his new wife onto the dance floor. They moved together perfectly and everyone cheered. Obioma pressed her body against his and whispered something in his ear that made him laugh. That's when Adaeze stood up. She walked slowly toward the high table, her gold and red wrapper shining under the lights. Conversation stopped as people noticed her moving. Even the DJ seemed to lower the music. Excuse me, she said loudly, climbing onto the small stage where the microphone sat. The hall became completely quiet. All eyes were on her. I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate my husband's wedding, she began, her voice clear and strong through the speakers. Chinedu looked panicked. Ada, what are you doing? I'm giving a speech. Every good wife should congratulate her husband on his special day, don't you think? She turned back to the crowd. You all know me as the barren wife. The woman who failed at her most important duty. The curse that prevented this family from having children. People nodded and murmured agreement. Well, I have a confession to make. The hall became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. I am not barren. Gasps echoed through the room. Obioma's face went white. Chinedu stood up so fast his chair fell over. What did you just say? Mama Chinedu called out from her table. I said I am not barren. I have never been barren. I chose not to have children. The crowd exploded in shocked voices. People started talking all at once, trying to understand what she had just revealed. That's impossible, Obioma screamed. You're lying. Am I? Adaeze pulled a folded paper from her wrapper. This is a medical report from the hospital in Lagos. It confirms that I am perfectly fertile. I've been taking medication to prevent pregnancy for 3 years. Chinedu looked like someone had hit him with a stick. What? Why would you do such a thing? Adaeze looked at him with eyes full of pain and strength. Because I refused to bring innocent children into a family that would treat them the way you all treated me. The words hit the room like thunder. I watched how you spoke to me when you thought I couldn't give you what you wanted. I saw the cruelty in your mother's eyes, the hatred in her voice. I heard the things she said about people who are different, people who struggle. Mama Chinidu stood up, her face red with anger. You deceived us. You let us think you were cursed. I let you show me who you really are, Adaeze replied calmly. And now everyone can see it too. She turned back to the crowd. For 3 years I endured insults, mockery, and abuse because I couldn't have children. But what about my other qualities? I cooked, I cleaned, I supported my husband's business. I was faithful, kind, and hardworking. Did any of that matter? No. Because in your eyes, a woman is only worth the babies she can produce. People in the crowd began to look uncomfortable. Some women looked down at their hands, remembering things they had said about Adaeze. And you, Obioma, Adaeze continued, looking directly at the bride. You mocked me for being barren, but what happens when you face difficulties? What happens when life tests you the way it tested me? Will you still be so proud then? Obioma's mouth opened and closed like a fish, but no words came out. I am leaving this family today, Adaeze announced. Not because I am ashamed or defeated, but because I choose to. I choose to find people who will value me for who I am, not what my womb can produce. She pulled out an envelope and placed it on the table. These are divorce papers. I've already signed them. The crowd gasped again. In their culture, women almost never initiated divorce. You can't divorce me, Chinidu shouted. I am your husband. You stopped being my husband the day you decided I wasn't enough for you, Adaeze replied. The day you chose to bring another woman into our home instead of fighting for our marriage. She stepped down from the stage and began walking toward the exit. But halfway there she stopped and turned around one more time. Oh, and one more thing. The palm wine business that's been making so much money lately? The new customers, the expanded routes, the better prices? That was all my doing. I've been building connections and managing the business books for 2 years. I hope your new wife is as good with numbers as she claims to be with everything else. 6 months later, Ngozi found Adaeze in Lagos, running her own small restaurant near the busy market. The place was packed with customers eating her delicious food. Adaeze moved between the tables, greeting people with genuine smiles, taking orders and making sure everyone was happy. Look at you, Ngozi said, hugging her friend tightly. You look like a completely different person. And she did. Adaeze's face glowed with happiness and peace. She wore a simple dress and comfortable shoes, her hair braided in a modern style. She looked like a successful businesswoman, which is exactly what she had become. How did you find me? Adaeze asked, serving her friend a plate of jollof rice. Word travels fast in our community. People have been talking about your restaurant. They say it's the best in this area. Business is good. I work hard, but I love what I do. They sat at a quiet table in the corner while Adaeze's assistant handled the other customers. Tell me what happened after I left, Adaeze said. Ngozi's face became serious. It was not good, my friend. 3 weeks after the wedding, Obioma had a miscarriage. Adaeze's expression softened with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry to hear that. Despite everything, I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. She blamed you. She said your curse followed her into the marriage. And what did people say? At first they agreed with her. But then strange things started happening. Chinidu's palm wine business began failing without your management. He made bad deals, lost customers, couldn't keep track of money. Mama Chinidu got very sick and needed expensive treatment, but there was no money. Adaeze listened quietly, feeling no joy in their troubles but no sadness either. Obioma became bitter and angry. She blamed everyone for her problems. She fought with Mama Chinidu, insulted the neighbors and made enemies everywhere she went. People started remembering how gentle and respectful you were, how you never caused trouble until they pushed you too far. What about Chinidu? He's been looking for you. He wants you to come back. Adaeze laughed, but there was no bitterness in it. Of course he does. Now that he sees what he lost. Will you go back? Never. I've learned something important, Ngozi. My worth was never tied to what others thought of me or what my body could do. I am valuable because of who I am, my mind, my heart, my skills, my dreams. Any family that can't see that doesn't deserve me. Just then, a well-dressed man approached their table. He looked nervous but determined. Excuse me, are you the owner of this restaurant? Yes, I am. Is there a problem with your food? No. The food is excellent. I'm David Okafor and I own 3 restaurants in Abuja. I've been watching your business for weeks. I'd like to discuss a partnership with you. Adaeze's eyes lit up with interest. What kind of partnership? I want to help you expand. Open more locations, maybe even franchise the concept. You have something special here." As they talked business, Ngozi watched her friend with admiration. This was what Adaeze had been meant to be, not just someone's wife waiting to prove her worth through children, but a strong, independent woman building her own dreams. When the businessman left with plans to meet again the next week, Ngozi shook her head in amazement. "You did it, Ada. You really did it." "Did what?" "You found your true value. And now everyone else is seeing it too." Adaeze looked around her busy restaurant, at the customers enjoying her food, at the life she had built with her own hands and mind. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said. "I might have children someday if I meet the right man who loves me for who I am completely. But now I know that whether I do or don't, I'm still a complete person. I'm still worthy of respect and love. What about Chinedu and Obioma? I hope they learn to treat each other better than they treated me. I hope they find happiness. But their journey is not my responsibility anymore." As the evening sun set over Lagos, painting the sky orange and pink, Adaeze felt a deep peace settle in her heart. She had learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. And sometimes, the woman you find is stronger and more valuable than you